Raphael Honigstein. So since our last show, Bayern Munich fire Julian Nagelsmann, hire Thomas Tuchel, and of course, what's Tuchel's first game in charge is the Klassiker against his old side, Dortmund, who are a point ahead of Bayern in the table. And you mentioned the dramatic moment from Kobel, that air kick which swung the fixture. Would it have gone another way, do you think, without that horrible error?
We don't know, but what we do know is that Dortmund started really well. They had a bit of swagger. You could see that they'd been unbeaten in 2023 in the league. They played with belief. They had character. They had presence. And Bayern, for some strange reasons, were nervous. Tuchel was nervous. He admitted being nervous after the game. Maybe some of that nervousness had spread onto the team. Of course, changes, only 48 hours to work with the side. Maybe they weren't still quite sure what he wanted them to do. It all added up to Dortmund having a lot of initiative, but then that goal changed everything. And Thomas Muller, who talks to everyone on the pitch, said that he spoke to some Dortmund players after the goal they conceded and felt that their heads had dropped.
Right.
It was a sense of here we go again, because they had lost every single game since 2014 in the Bundesliga in Munich. And the inevitable then became maybe a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Is there an element of, lads, it's Dortmund when Bayern play them?
At home there is, because they haven't lost for such a long time. The one game they lost in all these years, they lost 3-0 at home in 2014 with Pep in charge, but Bayern had already won the league at the time and didn't really care. So they have that psychological hold on them. That's definitely true. And Tuchel, in a way that he set up the team, also seemed to think, actually, it is only Dortmund, because he went away from that usual Bayern dominant style, pressing high, trying to control the game with the ball, having a lot of possession, to basically just sitting fairly deep and waiting for Dortmund to make mistakes. And then, as as Marco Reus said, Bayern just played on the break at home, quite shamelessly, and destroyed them. So Tuchel would have seen those weaknesses, and Tuchel was quite happy to maybe give Dortmund a bit of initiative. Maybe they looked better than they really were in those early minutes because it was partly by design. But certainly Bayern can almost count themselves a little bit unlucky, or perhaps should blame themselves for not winning in much more comfortable fashion, because after going 3-0 up, as you said earlier, 23 minutes, the game sort of just petered out and Bayern had lots of chances, 3 goals chalked off for offside. It could have easily been 6 or 7. And Dortmund's 2 goals at the end just put a bit of cosmetics on the result.
And I remember that in 2021, the master lines of Thomas Tuchel when he took over Chelsea was getting clean sheets, one after another, and they won the Champions League like that. I wonder if since he has taken over in the middle of the season, he's going to try to do something like that with Bayern too. You said that they played in the counter-attack more than having the possession of the ball. Do you think that in following up in April, we'll be seeing a performance of Bayern like that? Thomas Tuchel defending deep?
Tuchel Nacho.
I'm not sure, because it's not in his nature, but he is very pragmatic in the sense that he understands what teams need, what the players are most comfortable in. I think the Bayern team is most comfortable in a back four, which was one of the changes of his very short regime. They were a little bit more passive, out of possession, defending a lot deeper. But I don't think that is the finished vision. I think this is just an intermediate step to a more fully formed Bayern, because Tuchel is deeply inspired by Guardiola, and I think wants to ideally have free-flowing possession football with lots of dominance, lots of possession, but not at the price of asking too much of the team too quickly. So I think the defensive setup by his standards is just a step in a longer plan for Bayern, which will evolve as he becomes more comfortable with the team and vice versa.
Who was credited with the first goal? Who's kind of random?
It was an own goal because Gregor Kobel got the
Did he actually nick the ball?
Smallest of touches.
Okay.
That's why he was so reminiscent of James Horncastle, because he would never completely miss the ball.
Enough, Rafa. Enough.
Is there footage of that?
Thomas
I
Muller.
think it is online.
Thomas Muller, who's doing a
Well-
lot of talking, both literally and also with his feet and that, with a brace in this game, and moved to a more kind of traditional Muller position. Is using Muller the right way? Is that kind of job one for a successful incoming Bayern Munich manager?
To be fair to Julian Nagelsmann, I don't think he really played Muller in the wrong position. The problem was more that not playing Muller enough. Taking him off when they were taking him off when they were 1-0 up against Leverkusen and things disintegrated in his final game, as it happened for Bayern. Taking him off after only 10 minutes when Upamecano was sent off in that defeat at Borussia Mönchengladbach. These were the things that I think Nagelsmann got wrong, but he didn't, unlike Niko Kovac, for example, had this idea of playing Müller on the right or on the left where he's not that impactful. So Müller, I think recognizing that Müller is one of those almost untouchables is something that Tuchel very quickly realized, because when you have a team in need of a bit of stability, clarity, I think the last thing you want to do is take off your most experienced guys and rely on some of the newer guys. And Tuchel, again, being very smart, understanding how to read a dressing room, understanding the needs of a team of players, realized that this kind of back to basics approach, forward to back, and then it was quite fluid, sometimes 4-2-3-1, sometimes more as a 4-1-4-1, but there's not a huge difference. Gave Bayern just a bit more comfort and that bit more familiarity that perhaps was missing under Nagelsmann.
Rafi, what would it say about Chelsea, given the thorough and exhaustive search that they are currently conducting for a new manager, were they to appoint the coach that Bayern have just sacked and replaced with the guy that Chelsea sacked at the beginning of the season?
I wouldn't be too cynical about this move if it was to happen, because Nagelsmann is a great manager and is a huge talent. His problem at Bayern was that I think he was still a little bit too young and inexperienced, both in some of the things he did, the way he behaved, the way things were a little bit self-centered at times, but also in a football sense, trying too hard, I think, to fit Bayern into his ideas, fit the players into his ideas, rather than being a bit more adaptive and looking for a way of bringing the best out of the players, and then kind of the system is almost the afterthought. That was one of the complaints. It's not a huge complaint. I think it's just the signs of a manager still understanding how things work at this level. And my suggestion would not be that he'd be a bad appointment for Chelsea. I would say it'd be a bad choice on Tuchel's behalf. I'd say it'd be a bad choice on Julian Nagelsmann's behalf to go to Chelsea, because I think a few more managers will bite the bullet there in that dysfunctional surroundings. And I think he'd be better advised to go somewhere a bit more stable, like Real Madrid, for example.
The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.